Hey there, are you ready to supercharge your SEO skills? Join the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast for a free 3-day SEO challenge starting June 4th, 2024. Sign up now at crystalwaddell.com supercharge and take your website to the next level. Don't miss out on this free challenge. Enroll now.
There's so many little processes that you need to go into for that. And yeah, I just think a good thing to do is just map out everything. So even like your culture process, map out what do you actually want? Like a lot of people don't actually ask themselves the hard questions. Well, what some traits of our top performers, right? Our top performers that did Billy, what does Billy do best? Okay, these are the 3 things we need to find. Okay, yes, they need to have this X, Y, and Z experience, but they need to have the trait like Billy. Or we get them to do a DISC assessment. We can actually see, would they work well with Billy, or would they work well with whoever would be managing them likewise? So again, like recruitment, not an easy read a book type of thing and then this is it. It's all about trialing and testing.
Welcome to the 3rd season of the Simple and Smart SEO Show, the podcast dedicated to empathy-driven, brand-building SEO. I'm your host, Crystal Waddell. I leverage my obsession with user experience to help business owners just like you optimize your website with confidence. Thank you so much for being here. Let's jump into another great episode. Welcome back to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. Oh my goodness, we are in for a treat today because we have Josh Peacock from SEO for Hire. He is the CEO of an agency that places SEOs within teams at different companies. So we're going to pull back the curtain today on what's going on in the SEO industry. So Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Krista. It was lovely getting to meet you for the first time in San Diego at Brighton SEO. So we talked about it back then. So it's great to finally jump on this.
That was so funny. It was karaoke time. I think somebody was singing something special from the 80s. So yeah, that was so much fun. But okay, so can you give us just a little bit of your background, Josh? Because I know that you are a world traveler and I'm just trying to figure out, like, how did you end up as the lead of this company, SEO for Hire? How did that begin?
Yeah, so I've actually got a funny story. Like, I'd like to say that I was deep in the roots of SEO and recruitment and then came up with this idea, but that's really not what happened. So I always knew I wanted to own a business. I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I loved traveling. And when I travel, I get a lot of ideas. So I was 22 when we started the company. And basically what happened was I was living in Barcelona at the time and met my business partner, Craig. And we met on a beach drinking strawberry daiquiris and ended up having a lot of things in common. So I'd been in recruitment and sales background for years before that. And what I loved about that was that you could be your own boss, and as much work as you put in, it shows like how much money you've made and where you can actually bring yourself. So I always loved that side. Once I met Craig, we started going for runs together. We started going to the gym together and just hanging out and talking about books we've read, things we've learned, all of this. So we finally came together, and he'd been in SEO for about 7 to 8 years at that time. And so he got in really young when he was like 15 or 16. And he owned 2 SEO agencies, so a content company and a link building company. We started talking. I wanted to get into recruitment side. He was like, there's nobody doing it in SEO, just SEO. So we started sitting together, brainstorming ideas, thinking about what we could do together. And we finally came up with a plan to start SEO for Hire. So what we did is we just reached out to his network, as he was already in the SEO industry. And we reached out to a load of his clients. And basically everybody said it was so easy to fluff a CV. They'd had a track record of SEOs coming into their company and leaving within 3 to 6 months. Because they just joked about what they could actually do, but then given the actual task, they couldn't do it. So we got a lot of positive feedback from that. And yeah, we spent about 6 to 8 months researching that, doing as much as we could to actually build the processes until we finally launched SEO for Hire. And now 2.5 years later, we're here. And in between, being able to travel the world and do what I love. Yeah.
That's so exciting. So when you place SEOs in positions, do you specialize like in one country or one geographical area, or how global is SEO for Hire?
Yeah, so we've got clients all over the globe. So we've got multiple clients down in Australia. We've got quite a lot of our clients in the US, UK, Ireland, all over Europe. We've got some in South America. So the way we kind of work is that most of our candidate base is either UK or US. And so basically what a client can come towards us, whether that be agency or a big in-house company, and they're looking to fill an SEO position, they just come to us through either our network or, as I mentioned, we're one of the only recruitment companies just specialized in SEO. So like see us through socials from that, come to us, come with a job description or what. And we've got, honestly, Chris, we've had clients that have tried to fill positions for 6 months up to, I think one of our clients from Austin was trying to fill an SEO manager role for 3 years. And we were able to fill it within, I think it was a month and a bit. But yeah, so honestly, anywhere, as long as somebody's looking to hire an SEO, we can help them.
I imagine it's difficult to fill these roles, maybe for one reason that there's not really an SEO degree, like in terms of what people have on their credentials. Like I can imagine that experience obviously matters, but even SEO experience can, it can mean something different from place to place, agency to agency. So is that the challenge that you guys have seen, because SEO isn't actually like a field of study or traditional field of study? Does that contribute at all?
Absolutely. That, and as well as what you said about that it could differ from agency to agency. So you could have somebody that's been 5 years at one agency that could be one of those agencies where you just put on minimal tasks and you're just picking them every day. Whether somebody else who's been in 3 or 4 agencies in, let's say, maybe not 3 or 4, let's say 2 agencies within 3 years, but they're in the deep end. Maybe they're in a startup, maybe they're in a mid-sized company where they're having to do everything, which requires somebody to have growth mindset and just grow a lot. And it's not a problem that I would say come across, but there's a lot of times where clients come to us and they're like, look, we want somebody with 10 years experience. And we're like, really? That doesn't mean anything, because you could have somebody in 5 years experience done double or triple the amount of actual experience in that person that's done the 10 years. So yeah, so that's what we had to do. So what we did is we built a vetting process, and our vetting process is mixed with loads of tests, loads of questions, got disc assessments, personality assessments in there as well. But that's basically because in SEO, like, it's very easy to fluff a CV. It's very easy to say, I've got X, Y, and Z experience. But unless you actually test somebody and put their knowledge to the test, then realistically, you could just have everybody bluffing themselves. So that's what we did. We built a vetting process. And what we did is we started the podcast Diary of an SEO on the back of that, where we sit down with the people we bring on for about 30 minutes after and get them to go through our vetting process. We have a different one for a technical SEO versus an SEO manager, an SEO director, kind of all the roles. And that's what we love doing at our events as well, is chatting to industry leaders and just looking at what way do they hire, what way do they test their SEO. But yeah, the learning process, it's an ongoing process to try and just build on.
It's interesting that you mentioned growth mindset, because I used to be a teacher. I have a master's degree in physical education, but it's like when I come into like the professional world, when people work for other people, I know that there's this element of you're just showing up to do your job or whatever. And as an entrepreneur, you can't look around and have somebody else do it. You can't push it off to somebody else. You just have to get it done. And so I think entrepreneurship lends itself to growth mindset, just like being an educator lends itself to growth mindset. And I've noticed that there are several entrepreneurial SEOs in the field. As I've talked in my background, I've met other former teachers and different things, which is really interesting. One thing that I want to really understand here, because as entrepreneurs, you talked about like technical SEO, and there's probably content and on page and link building and all that type of stuff. Could you talk us through like the hierarchy of SEO positions? Because I know I see senior SEO position available. I'm like, what is that? What do they do? What are they responsible for? So could you walk us through that depth chart, I guess?
Yeah, I'd like to just say a disclaimer first, right? So we've been doing this for nearly 3 years. And honestly, I've heard every title under the thumb. There's no fixed hierarchy. I was on a call with a very big agency from Australia last Wednesday, and he showed us their career roadmap. And honestly, Crystal, there must have been 14 places from junior SEO. The whole, I don't know what the last one was. I think it was something like senior SEO director or something, senior strategy SEO director or something like that. So it's different within every company. And I feel like, yeah, titles are something I feel like companies play with a lot of ego. So, okay, when realistically there could just be, there should just be junior, mid and senior is the way that I look at it. Yeah, look, it depends on what company you're in, what agency you're in. A lot of companies either have big content teams, big technical team, then they have client facing, and then they have somebody that direct all of that. One thing that we're seeing quite common in a lot of bigger agencies is that they have all small little pods. So it's like mini agencies within the agency, if that makes sense. So you could have one content, one tech, one on page, one strategy, one client facing, and then somebody that manages all of that. So honestly, Crystal, it depends on what company it is. There's no just given hierarchy. But that is something that we're looking at the minute. The idea of recruitment to me is like vulture recruitment. They're not really there to benefit the industry. So it's something that we've tried to change as soon as we started. And that's why we've got clients that come back to us all the time and all this. So basically what we try and do is we try and give out free resources. So one we did recently was the optimizing onboarding, where we brought on Travis Talent, the VP of SEO at Brain Lab. But the next one we want to do is how to get the best out of your team structure. And it's one thing that we've worked with hundreds of agencies where we go in and we've seen every single team structure under the sun, but what one actually works the best. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to get a lot of people that we call friends that are in the network as industry experts and just see if they've run an agency for 10 years, what team structure have they got now? They've obviously tried and tested maybe tens, if not hundreds of different team structures over the last 10 years and just put it together. So that way we will have an answer for you on it. But right now it's everything, honestly.
And part of that is I just wanted the entrepreneurs who are listening to know that overwhelm you feel with SEO, there's a reason for it because it's usually broken down into multiple rules for multiple people. So I just wanted to give that layer of comfort to my fellow entrepreneurs out there. The next question that I have though is at what level, like what size of company do they typically start to hire more than one person for an SEO department?
Yeah. So again, depends. Like we've got clients that are massive agencies that are just starting to build out their SEO team, or we've got small digital marketing agencies that could be less than 10 people that have been using an SEO agency for 3, 4, 5 years, and then they want to build their in-house team. Eli Schwartz has got a few articles on this that's great. But yeah, honestly, Krista, it could be from all sizes. But I think what we see most of the time is that a company's been using an agency for X amount of years and then just not seeing the needle move anymore. So I think in their eyes, if they bring somebody in-house, they'll be working on this all the time without having been an agency working with maybe 10, 15 different clients a month type of thing. So I guess it's once the actual SEO channel hits a certain amount of volume or a certain amount of lead, that you think it's a great strategy to bring in and invest in an in-house.
I could imagine when you work with an agency, then they have their own internal structure and they have their representatives that are probably churning and burning within that agency. So after a certain period of time, a company might say, okay, we're comfortable enough with the concept of SEO to bring that person on our team that will be consistent. But then I'm also wondering, because so many companies are coming online since 2020, is there an industry that you see that like SEO and SEOs are being recruited more often for that particular industry versus other ones? I also want to let you know that my free 3-day challenge is back. So if you want to join the Supercharge Your SEO 3-day challenge, it is June 4th, 5th, and 6th, and you can register for free at crystalwydell.com/supercharge. So hope to see you inside the challenge.
I can't say I do. We work with all types of different industries, from finance to anything and everything. Travel's one, to be honest, that's quite high in demand right now. I think maybe that might have just been because it went down over COVID, which is kind of roughly when we started. It was just after COVID. Maybe it's starting to pick up a bit more. But we've got clients I can think of my head now that in the last 2 years have actually turned their niche down into either travel SEO or travel digital PR. So yeah, that could be one that I think is in high demand right now.
Can we go back to like your definitions, just like to stick with the junior, the mid, and the senior that you mentioned? Can we start with the junior and understand like what's expected in that particular job title and how much do they get paid?
That's a tricky one again, Crystal, because we work with companies globally. The salaries are different everywhere. And that's actually one thing that we pitch a lot to our US clients, is that they can have a junior role on anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70K USD and looking for somebody maybe 1 to 2 years experience in an agency, whereas in the UK, you could find somebody on that salary 4, 5, 6 years into their career. So yeah, the salary one is one that everybody always wants to know, what is the right salary for this? But honestly, changing every few weeks at the minute. It's just, yeah, supply and demand is the way that I look at it. So it's changing honestly every few weeks. And to answer your question about what's expected of a junior is, again, I'd love to just be able to bullet point, this is what's expected. But because we work with so many different companies, it also different, Crystal. So you could have somebody a junior that's expected to handle, let's say, 3 or 4 clients as soon as they go in, and not them. And then maybe they're asked to do whatever it is in SEO term. But then you could also have a junior that goes into a company and all they have to do is shadow somebody for a year or 2. And then the company just naturally promotes them up. That's why we created a thing called the SEO Leadership Playbook. It's because we found that there was a lot of SEOs that hadn't actually been taught how to lead properly. They'd either just been in the agency for long enough that they just felt that they needed to be promoted, or they had annual review. And you've been here for 1 to 2 years. This is the next stage. When realistically, they actually haven't been taught, or they haven't actually had the experience to go up the manager position or a leadership position. So that's why we built that on the back end of that. So honestly, Krista, again, I'd love to be able to give you an answer in 10 different bullet points, but it changes all.
It gives me, an idea though. Okay, obviously that's the entry level point of an SEO, or what we could generalize as an entry point. And then their job roles report to somebody else. So I'm assuming that the person that they report to is that mid-level. Yeah. Right. So is there anything different, Josh, about their job description from that entry-level person?
So the way that if I look at a broad range of things that we do, so basically what you'd have the junior SEO doing a few tasks at a time. And basically what they're doing most of the time is getting trained and getting up to scratch from what they should be doing. And then eventually they'll be able to handle, let's say, a few clients if it's agency side. Then the one above them is normally an SEO manager. So they could be taking care of 10 plus SEOs, as well as doing proper strategy and just making sure everything gets done. And then the more senior position above that would be more SEO director level, which is funny because SEO director or like senior SEO manager, somebody that's at the top end of their career, we bring on loads of them onto our podcast. And what's funny is that most of them are actually out of the trenches. So they're not actually doing SEO every day. They're more managing the team, finding out the best way to keep shareholders and the actual C-suite executives happy, rather than actually doing SEO. Yeah, that's just a broad description of it. But again, you can get an SEO director that's in the trenches every single day who's got 1 to 2 people underneath. So it just depends from company.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, that SEO director in a bigger company probably reports to the CEO and the CFO, or is at least on that level and having to communicate like the value of what the search department's doing. Since you said you can't tell us exactly, but like you gave us a starting point for an entry-level SEO. Is there a general salary range for the mid-level and then, that senior level?
Yeah, so if we look at UK side first, the UK side for an entry level is anywhere from 30K to maybe 38K GBP. For a junior manager, it then starts from 38K all the way up to, for an experienced SEO manager, you could be looking at 55K. And then anywhere up from that is more senior side. But again, I wish that was just the basics. I wish there was a rule for all companies to be like that. But you'd be surprised that there's agencies that come to us and they want an SEO manager with 5 years experience. They want to pay 35K, which isn't enough. And again, it's the US side as well. It's different. We had a client recently that was looking for an SEO specialist with 6 years experience, and they were wanting 40K USD. We were like, we're not going to find somebody for that. And they were like, let us go do it by ourselves for a month. And if we have no luck, we'll come back. They came back, and now they've upped it to 80K. And even 80K is like, it's great, but for what they actually want from this SEO, these guys work with 8-figure brands. And yeah, we're probably going to have to tell them to up the salary again because the talent's just not there. But yeah, so from entry level on the US, it could be anywhere from 50 to 60K. SEO manager or like a senior SEO specialist could be anywhere from 60 to 100K. And then again, with the US, it's crazy though, because I think Salesforce just came out with they have an SEO director job for 204K right now. I know PayPal had an SEO director role for 280K. And there is a job fishing about, I think it's a senior SEO director. It's 300 and something K as well. So again, it just depends on the company. It just depends how much they actually value SEO.
Yeah, it's interesting how you said that one company said, hey, we're going to go take it on for ourselves for a month and see if we can do it. And then they realized like how intricate it probably was and how many different things that person was actually going to have to do and manage. So that's a fun story.
That's the thing, Crystal. Like I'm on client calls all the time and discovery calls. It's either The thing is with recruitment, especially within SEO, I get it. Recruitment's expensive. I get it. But then if you look at the other side of how expensive it is for a bad hire, but a lot of clients come to us because it's either too late. There's very few clients that come to us that are like, okay, we've got this targeted for the next 6 months. The next 6 months, we're probably going to hire another SEO specialist or another 2 SEO specialists. It's always, okay, we just signed another client last week. We need to hire somebody now, and it's all rushed, or somebody's trying to do it by themselves. So yeah, I love it when clients come to us and they're like, we're going to go see what we can do on our own side. And we try and give a lot of free resources as well away, Crystal. We try and help clients do it because recruitment is not an easy job. I know loads of people think it's just right, find somebody, put them in, and that's it. But there's so much in between that the tech stack that we use to constantly be nurturing candidates and try and constantly doing things. We've got the webinar, the podcast, and give out free resources. We go to events. Like there's so much that happens behind the scenes of that I love it when clients come to us and they're like, we're going to try for another month. Because I'll say to the team, I was like, we'll hear for them in a month then, because it's very rare for somebody to go out and do it unless they've got like a big network and they're in the industry and that type of thing.
I think it's neat how because you specialize in SEO, like what's going to make a good hire and what people are expecting on each side, because a lot of companies don't know a lot about SEO. So they may come to you with unrealistic expectations. And I think it's so neat that you can tell them you're going to have to adjust your budget or your expectations in the role or whatever. That's great that they have an intermediary like SEO for Hired and translate what they're trying to do in terms of hiring the right person.
Yeah, honestly, a few things that we do with that as well is we've turned down working with companies before. We'll find out that they're not ready to hire an in-house team. Maybe one of their friends said it, or somebody within the company said, look, you should start hiring an in-house team. We look at them and then we're like, do you know what? Honestly, you'd be better suited to working with an agency with maybe the next year until you bring X, Y, and Z up. And then I think we could revisit it. But that's the idea I've always had with SEO for Hire, is that I want to be long-term partners with companies. I don't want somebody just to come for me quickly for a transaction. So if we can give any value for free, knowing that they could come back in 5, 10, even 15 years time, hopefully we'll still be about, then we'll do that. And that's another thing as well, is that like we've turned down working with companies before, Crystal, because either their salary expectation is too low, maybe they're asking way too much for from that SEO once we get somebody in. And we don't want to burn bridges with either the companies or the candidate, because I feel like reputation is one of the most important things in the world. But that's one thing. We're nearly 3 years into business and we've only had to give one refund. And that was due to a mental health issue that cropped up, not SEO ability. So it's like, honest client sales call, I always say, I was like, I know it sounds cliche, but like our ethos is quality over quantity. Like instead of giving you 20 SEOs for the role that we could do, we'll give you 2 or 3. And we've got in trouble with that before with clients. So like, come on, you've been working on this for a week, 2 weeks. You've only been able to showcase 2 or 3 candidates. And I'm like, the problem is bring them to interview and you'll want to hire all 3. That's the way we work. We don't work within volumes, we're working within quality.
I think this applies to any business owner, no matter if you have a brick and mortar or whatever. Any business owner who's listening right now at some point may want to expand their team. So in your experience, like in this SEO industry, how much does it cost to hire the wrong person, beating it up just to get somebody in the role?
Yeah, honestly, it depends on the business. It depends on how much new business you're bringing on. It depends on how many team members you've currently got. But I think is it Glassdoor? I've got a case study where I think the wrong hire can cost about 130K, because you don't just have the recruitment cost. You've got the actual time, the resource, everything that goes into it. But then as well as that, you've got the onboarding. You've got, if somebody stays with you for 6 months, you get all the training into that. But I remember when we first started the company, I hired somebody and let's just say they really didn't work out. I know that's bad coming from a recruitment company, but it really just didn't work out. They had all the experience on paper. They passed our tests and stuff, but basically they came from public sector. We were startups. So they had 14 years public sector recruitment, HR experience. I thought that ticked all the list. They came in, we're a startup. Everything needs to be done yesterday. That we don't have time to do things like that. And it just didn't work out. And I learned firsthand about how much of my time went in trying to train that person up, bring them up to date with the processes, all of that. And it was like, I think they were with us for maybe 5 months. And those 5 months, not that they were wasted, because I don't believe anything's wasted. Like I learned a lot about that. But if you're running a big organization, you're spending decent salaries on, and they're wasting time training somebody up for them to leave within 6 months or to be the wrong hire. I genuinely think it's one of the most important things. And I know I probably sound biased, but even Stephen Bartlett, I'm sure Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, that if he talks about it all the time, his job is to find the most talented people and build culture with them. So he doesn't call himself an investor and all this. When people ask him, my whole job is to find the best possible talent I can and build culture that keeps them together and let them thrive. So I genuinely think, recruitment is one of the most important jobs there is out there.
Yeah, I think from my teaching background, there's this saying that it takes a child 3 years to recover from one bad teacher. I understand that application even in your sector because the ramifications continue to happen down the line of whatever negative thing happened in the past. And then the other thing I was thinking about is even my father, he has owned a landscaping company for years. And for him and other business owners, mainly entrepreneurs, expanding their team has been one of the most difficult things, like finding good people, finding people who want to work, who want to commit, who are contributors, not just showing up for the paycheck, even though obviously that's the deal, right? That's the transaction. You come do the work, we'll give you the money. But it's like, how do you see those qualities in a person that you want on your team that's going to give you a little bit more than just what's on the paper?
Yeah. I think a really important thing to do, Christina, one of the things I think is one of the worst ideas for a company owner or a business is to try and recruit or to try and hire without going into all of the processes. Okay, let's say we find somebody tomorrow, let's say, or next week, and we don't have an onboarding process that we properly invest the time into. Well, then you've done all the work to try and find somebody, and then they're out the door within 3 months. The whole onboarding process, like the honeymoon phase, it's what sets up employees for the rest of their company and how they build that reputation and that brand image. So if you as well start to hire, but you don't have all of the hiring process mapped out. So let's say you put a job up tomorrow and you get 300 applicants, and let's just say let's say half of them are high quality applicants. Let's say you don't get back to them, Crystal. That's 150 high quality SEOs that wanted to work with your company and that now have a bad image for your company because you haven't replied to anybody. I mean, so there's so many little processes that you need to go into for that. And yeah, I just think a good thing to do is just map out everything. So even like your culture process, map out what do you actually want? Like a lot of people don't actually ask themselves the hard questions. Well, what some traits of our top performers, right? Our top performers that the Billy, what does Billy do best? Okay, these are the 3 things we need to find. Okay, yes, they need to have this X, Y, and Z experience, but they need to have the trait like Billy. Or we get them to do a DISC assessment. We can actually see, would they work well with Billy or would they work well with whoever would be managing them likewise? So again, like recruitment, not an easy read a book type of thing and then this is it. It's all about trialing and testing. And I think, I honestly think one of the best ways to hire and recruit and find the team that you want is by going to events. Go to events that you think that those people will be at. So Brighton SEO San Diego, great example of it. There's hundreds, if not thousands of great SEOs there, business owners. Like, isn't that a fantastic place to go and build your team? If you don't want to put the budget to recruitment, fly to San Diego, Brighton SEO, stand there, be like, this is what we want. And again, 2 months before, map out what you actually want. You have leaflets or whatever it is, and just go around and talk to the room. Is there anybody here looking for a job? Because when I was there was hundreds of people that were looking for a job.
It's so interesting how the process of recruitment and these suggestions that you're making are parallel to SEO. Because you can have the greatest SEO in the world, but if your user experience is terrible or your product is terrible or any of the customer service experiences are terrible, it undoes everything that your SEO worked so hard to get you. We talked about that before on the show of the importance of having a checklist, of just writing down your processes, because a lot of times things are in the head of the business owner or the people who've been there since the beginning. And so you just take for granted that when people come on, they're just going to assimilate that knowledge. But it's an unrealistic expectation, and it can be easily solved by, like you said, a little preparation and having something on paper that somebody could follow and know what to expect. I think it's a behavioral science thing too, just being able to understand what to expect calms the nervous system.
Yeah, I've got 2 things on that. So again, we use the ClickUp as our project management tool. And before I had anybody else on the team, it was just me using that. Craig would come in every now and then, my business partner, and look at it. But it was built for me. And when I hired the team, I thought that it had everything in there, but the team couldn't understand it because it wasn't built for them. It was built for me. So I basically had to go into it, refine it, update it, and change it. Last week I had a call with quite a big staff company in the Netherlands that, again, they've been using an SEO agency for 4 years now, and they want to build their in-house team. But company culture is such an important thing to these guys. And what they want is they want somebody to come in and develop the processes and basically tell the company that, like, this isn't the right way of doing it. And they know that it's not the right way of doing it. They want somebody to do that. And they thought that would be challenging. And I was like, I actually don't think that is challenging. I think that there's a lot of SEOs that have been doing like mundane tasks, mundane jobs that would love to come in and just have the whole ownership of, this is my SEO department. This is now the processes I'm going to start building. Like, so anyway, we're in talks with them at the minute. But again, it's about building on that culture, building up the processes, and finding the right SEO.
Yeah, I guess it's both the dream job and also a scary opportunity because you're building it from ground up. So if it fails, then, that's on you. But if it succeeds, that's also on you. So that's the fun part of it. What about all of the changes that have happened over the last couple of years with technology, large language models like ChatGPT, and all of the Google updates and those things? Like, how is the role of the SEO and the availability of SEO roles, how have they changed over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it hasn't been good for the job market. Like, if we're being honest, I think we're all seeing in the last year especially, but I think it's a positive overall. Those low-hanging fruit jobs being replaced. One SEO that knows how to adopt a load of AI and use it to their advantage is as good as maybe 5 SEOs 2-3 years ago at the bottom end I'm talking about. But in a positive note, I think what we're seeing is a lot of more companies want more strategists. So SEOs to come in and be more strategy work across the board, that we're seeing a lot more like growth advisor, SEO role, growth strategist. So I think what we're seeing is, there's a big change in it. But I think those that are actually adopting AI and that are working with it as a friend, going into those higher salary, more growth side roles, which is great.
Do you think for the future, that's the way it's going to continue to grow, or do you anticipate any other changes in the future?
Yeah, I'd love to say that SEO is going to be around in about 10 years' time, but I think it's going to be extremely different from what it is today. We only started about 2.5-3 years ago. From then, it's already changed so much. As I mentioned, our vetting process that we try and update as much as we can. You'd laugh at what our questions and tests were. I'd love to think that SEO will still be about, which I hope it is. But the way that everything's changing so much and these updates that are coming, I don't know if SEO changes into a hybrid between digital PR or what it does.
Yeah, I want to know if the crystal ball, I thought you had the crystal ball, so I wanted you to look into it. And
I don't have the crystal ball. No.
Okay, so I guess probably the last question I wanted to ask is just in terms of future-proofing our careers as SEOs. You mentioned getting knowledgeable in AI, but is there anything specific within technology that SEOs really could be growing in so that they make themselves more marketable in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think it lies within AI. I think it actually lies within communication style. One thing that probably the biggest pain point for most of our clients right now is that they can't find SEOs that are able to communicate effectively with C-suite business owners. So those that are able to talk within revenue and bottom line and be able to actually, comfort clients or get the point across better to clients rather than going in with technical terms. And again, I've got one of my great friends who's on a very well-paying SEO job. Chatting to him last week and he was asking for a promotion and he was asking for advice on it. So I went on an hour call with him and we mapped out this whole way about how he get a promotion. He's handling £500,000 worth of SEO, all of this. He had a great company. And the biggest thing that they turned around and said was that his communication wasn't there. He's too technical jargon and all of that. So I think the biggest thing that SEOs can do to make themselves more attractive for companies hire is learn how to communicate effectively. A great resource on that is Eli Schwartz has got a thing called the RICE method, RICE, on the podcast with us that he was on. He talked about how there was a company, he worked for some of the biggest companies in the world, and there was a company owner who just didn't get SEO, didn't want to get it, and they were completely closed to it. So he came in, put a presentation of a GIF of a basketball player passing a ball to somebody and then shooting it in. And he just played it over and over and over again and just kept quiet. And he just seen everybody looking at it and confused. And he goes, this is what SEO is, the assist to everything else that goes in. SEO isn't going to be the one that just moves the needle by itself. It's everything else. And he finally got the point across to the company owner and whatever, did a lot of work with them. So I think about learning about different ways you can communicate. Like, as simple as that is, I'm sure people listening there would be like, oh, I wish I thought of something like that. It's very simple. But yeah, I think the technical jargon needs to be left behind.
Yeah. I think analogies are so good with SEO, and it's seen as such a technical practice in general. And I know that a lot of new SEOs make that mistake of thinking that the technical is where it's at, when, like you said, it's really the strategy and understanding like where you can optimize for profit, right? It's not just about the analytics that you can measure with numbers on a chart, but it's about how it impacts the brand itself. I think we should link to that show in the show notes, so I'll definitely get that from you. And I read Eli's book. I remember that. I used to be a basketball player, so it resonated. I was like, I get it. Yeah. So tell us how someone can get a hold of you, and who should reach out to your company. Is it the SEO themselves, or is it companies that are looking to hire an SEO?
Yeah. So anybody, if you're looking for an SEO job, just give it a search on LinkedIn. It's probably the best place, just Josh Peacock. Or you can email hello@seoforhire.co and my team will get in touch. But yeah, if you're a company looking to hire, go on our website, www.seoforhire.co. We've got loads of Calendly links in there. You can book a call with me. Or again, if you want to go through my LinkedIn. But yeah, that's probably the best ways to reach me. But even if you just want to chat about maybe anything I said on this, or don't agree with anything I said, please, let's debate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the best way to get me.
This is awesome. Josh, thank you so much for kind of pulling the curtain back on what it means to be a search engine optimizer at any level. I've wanted to ask questions like these for at least a year. So I'm just so grateful that you came on the show to break it down.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Crystal.
See you next time.